And we are live. Bruce, take it away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 21st of May, 2024 meeting of the Washington County Committee for Community Involvement, the CCI. We have a segment to our show tonight. Our show. It's not a meeting, it's a show. We have been fortunate to have the Washington County Department of Land Use and Transportation offer to provide us a series of information sessions and training sessions so that we better understand the landscape that we're trying to respond to and influence, perhaps. And so, without much further ado, I would like to introduce Diami Valentine from the Land Use and Transportation Department to give us a uh, a primer on transportation planning. So, Diami, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Good evening, committee members. I'm Diami Valentine. Again, I'm Principal Transportation Planner with the Department of Land Use and Transportation, and appreciate the invite and opportunity to share some information with you. I do see this as a conversation, so feel free. I have a presentation, but feel free to jump in if you have any questions, or hopefully we can have a good back and forth. And as Bruce mentioned, I think there's an interest in having further conversations as well. So this should just be kind of introductory, and I anticipate hopefully out of this conversation we can kind of identify further informational sessions.
So, anticipating the members of this group, I would like to encourage you to have clarifying questions during the presentation and substantial questions that require perhaps a detour in the presentation at the end of the presentation. So let's go for clarifying questions during the talk. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that. So let me jump in and share. Okay. Okay, can you see that? Perfect. All right.
Yes, we can.
All right. So this is probably, for some of you have seen similar kind of overviews before. For others, this may be new information, and there's certainly, this is a somewhat of an evolving landscape as of recent. And I'll get into some of the details here later on, but so just a brief overview of kind of transportation planning in Washington County. So we, the outline here, it's kind of hard to see my format here. Really just wanted to kind of give an overview of, I see a hand up. Yes, Fran.
I just want to know if this presentation is going to be made available to us immediately after the meeting.
I can certainly share this. Yep. Of course. All right, so we wanted to give an overview, federal, state, and regional planning kind of context and requirements that we have to comply with at the local level when we're developing and implementing our transportation system plan. So I'll kind of walk through in a little more detail what that entails, and then give an overview of some of those changes that I alluded to from the state responding to the climate friendly and equitable community rulemaking. So the federal requirements really are intended to make sure that there's consistency throughout the plan and throughout the various levels from the state, regional, and local level. And intended to be comprehensive, responsive to future growth, supportive of our land use conditions, cooperative in the sense that it's to be consistent with state, local, and regional planning efforts, and that this is a continuous process. It's responsive to changing dynamics over time, and typically a 20-year forecast, thinking about the future conditions. And so in order to be eligible to receive federal funding, to be consistent with these plans, the Federal Transit Administration and Federal Highway Administration has outlined certain planning regulations. They have system plans that establish their network of transportation facilities. And then in the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Area, which is Metro, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, they have to have a plan in place, and a financially constrained plan specifically, which is responsive to the anticipated local revenue or federal and or state revenue to fund our transportation system. So that policy guidance comes top down with the idea that our projects that we fund locally, and also thinking about kind of innovation can happen at the local level as well, thinking about design standards and other guidance that can help inform state and federal level policies. The state has a number of plans in place. So they have the Oregon Transportation Plan. The Transportation Planning Rule is something that's established, was initially adopted in 1991 through the Land Conservation and Development process. It's the guiding regulations that for us is adopted. It has land use implications, so our transportation system plan is a land use ordinance because it has implications on land use. As I will talk about a little bit more, there's a major update that occurred in response to governor's executive order, and some amendments were made in 2023. And so there are substantial modifications to the planning rule, and I'll walk through those again a little bit later. As I mentioned, the Oregon Transportation Plan, that was recently updated, and really had some, the focus of that was incorporating and thinking about safety, equity, and more of a climate focus. And then it articulated what has been, more paramount in people's minds in terms of the transportation funding crisis. So it identified that and started to think about how we can address that potentially. The Regional Transportation Plan, this is getting kind of moving down that order, reflects the local, so city and county transportation system plans, as well as the statewide transportation plan. It is the element in the region that maintains our financially constrained project lists, assumptions. It is the plan that provides compliance with federal and state rules. And it in itself establishes regional goals and priorities. It also provides policy guidance for the Regional Transportation Functional Plan, which is an element of the Urban Growth Management Functional Plan, and is really what lays out the specific requirements that our transportation, so the city and county transportation system plans, need to comply with. And those will be updated here actually within the next year. So the last major update, I think, was in 2012 of those transportation functional plan. So the update will be in response to the statewide transportation planning rule changes. So jumping in to our transportation system plan. So this is because my notes. There we go. So this is an element of the comprehensive plan. It directs, really, it's responsive to our community plans, our aspirational plans for growth, for land use, thinking 20 years into the future. Really outlines the needed mode, function, and general location of multiple elements. So I'll walk through in a little bit more detail in terms of what specifically is identified for future transportation solutions. The last major update was adopted in 2014. I think we've had about 13 updates, minor updates since then. And we do, in response to the transportation rule, planning rule changes, we are going to have to undergo a major update in the next couple of years. And so we'll be doing some scoping related to that update here shortly. So what the TSP is required to have a 20-year forecast. Our current TSP anticipates growth through 2040, and the chart here illustrates what those assumptions are. I will note that we've been fairly well on track in terms of population growth, but we have seen substantially more employment growth actually in Washington County compared. So this is kind of a 2015 forecast, and we've essentially met our employment growth anticipated or forecasted for 2040. This was accomplished by 2022. So we are well ahead of anticipated employment growth in Washington County. The TSP is required to establish the system to meet those identified needs. So those are based on certain criteria, level of service targets by mode, and demonstrated adequacy of those various modes to meet our travel demand based on the future growth. So our TSP is a not only a regulatory document, but it's also a goal, establishes our goals and values as a community. And so its guiding principles really are focused on safety, economic vitality, livability, and natural environment, with the other goals. So it outlines those goals and objectives. So system design, thinking about mobility, improving accessibility and connectivity to communities, to households, to major destinations, and active transportation, making sure that we are supportive of active lifestyles, and then have specific goals and objectives related to how we implement our transportation policies, in a coordinated fashion, thinking about our funding needs and available revenues into the future, as well as how we maintain our system in a state of good repair. So the TSP includes specific elements related, focused by mode. And so there's the roadway element, which includes the functional classification, which really is thinking about differentiating facilities by, again, the kind of function and demand of the facility. So we have a hierarchy of classification based on mobility versus access, and highest functional mobility corridors or principal arterials, with the lowest functional classification being those local streets, which provide access to our houses and businesses, with varying, neighborhood. We have neighborhood routes, collectors, and arterials in that order in terms of access to mobility. And then we also outline and define the needed or anticipated lane numbers for those roadway classifications. We also outline specific kind of special area streets, which are more reflective of the work through the community planning effort. We also have roadway freight routes identified in the plan. As far as the active transportation, we have pedestrian elements, which include, identifying areas that are going to or anticipate to have a higher level of design specifications for the pedestrian realm. So thinking about wider sidewalks, more street frontage improvements, also includes regional and community trails in that element. We also have a bicycle element, which defines the type of facility improvements anticipated by roadway functional classification. So on we have major street bikeways as well as enhanced major street bikeways. So enhanced major street bikeways would anticipate something that provides a little bit more comfort and protection, trying to accommodate a wide array of users beyond those who are the more confident riders. And then we also included transit element, which reflects the full spectrum of different transit uses that we have in the county, including high capacity transit, frequent bus service, community connector services, more interregional services, so services that are provided by adjacent counties, and which is a more important element. The transit element in particular is there's a greater emphasis, I suppose, in the new rule changes. So there's implications on what that transit system looks like and how we can regulate certain land use aspects. So on that, in terms of how the TSP is used, so from a land development standpoint, it really helps identify what facilities are needed, where the general location of those facilities are, and what the size and scope of the facility is needed. So that would be something that would be reviewed and is reflective in our community development code, points back to our transportation system plan, and has specific requirements and land use standards commensurate with these with the transportation system plan facility needs. Also helps inform project selection as well as project development in terms of, again, kind of where the facility is needed, the type of facility, and the design considerations that help inform the development of various facilities. And then it also supports interjurisdictional coordination, thinking about long-term jurisdiction for roadways. So the county owns and maintains, I think, over 1,300 miles of roadway facilities. Not all of that, and that a fair amount of those bisect or go through cities. So obviously thinking about the land use and development review process, the TSP helps identify what the desired facility is, and we coordinate with our cities with that regard. It also outlines how we anticipate the system to be developed, especially in our new growth areas, thinking about mobility, connectivity, some of the regional demand within these new growth areas as well. So it's an important aspect and often referenced. Some of you may have seen this kind of project process chart, another way in which just kind of a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of the project selection process. So again, the TSP really is, the first step in the process, identifying specifically those needs. As project selection happens, that project selection is really dependent on how the project is going to be funded, whether at the local level or whether we're being opportunistic and thinking about grant funding opportunities. It would help us in that selection process. Through the development process, it helps identify specific assessment engineering alternatives. And so this is kind of important to understand kind of where there is opportunity to provide input and how that input is considered through the development process. So once we get into design and construction, for example, it's a lot less community engagement. There should be a fairly well articulated and defined project at that point. With the transportation system plan being the greatest opportunity to inform and define and articulate what the needs are, with greater refinement happening through the process. That scope of decision making becomes more limited. I wanted to just lay out kind of in terms of what an amendment process looks like. So it is, since it is a land use ordinance, it goes through the land use ordinance process. So most of you are probably very familiar with this, but we have PC hearings, our planning commission. After an ordinance is filed, we'll have the initial hearing and provide the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Board has hearings and then adopts the ordinance. There may be engrossments depending on the community conversation around those through the hearings process. So just to give a sense of the scope and scale of a major update. So the last one took about 3 years. Some of you were involved in those conversations, and took two plus ordinances. And as I noted, we've updated it periodically, primarily for consistency with other adopted local plans and regional efforts. And then we have a lot of kind of off TSP, off docket, not necessarily off docket, I don't know, other projects, planning efforts that help inform and ultimately lead to ordinances. So for example, we just wrapped up the Washington County Vision for Transit that will likely inform or be folded into the next major update of the transportation system plan. So just looking at kind of how an idea becomes a regulation. So we have moved to, we used to have an annual planning work program. We've moved to a biannual work program process. So we collect and have a running list of ideas, and we start to converse and discuss and identify priorities, and ultimately develop a recommendation for what are kind of priority efforts to lead the planning and development planning staff. So then we seek public comment on that. We assess that and provide a recommendation, and then the board ultimately adopts the work program. And then that ordinance process, as I mentioned, the development of an ordinance, it could be as an outcome from a planning effort that could be a multi-year effort, to as short as something that's on the work program and just staff dedicated a few months with internal discussions, community conversations, ultimately leading to an ordinance being filed with public notice and hearings, engrossment if needed, and then that board decision with ordinance becoming effective 30 days following.
Jami, we have a clarifying question from Virginia.
Okay, sorry, I have
No,
not.
that's okay. No, fine. I'm on it.
Yep, thanks.
Where all do work program ideas come from? I know in the past CCI has submitted some. Can CPOs, can citizens, who all can suggest work program ideas?
Yeah, any and everybody are welcome to submit ideas. And we have, I know, I think CCI, you probably collect and solicit comments from within your, the CPOs, and it probably percolates up, I would imagine, within the CPO program. But yeah, anybody can submit an idea.
And would that include just work on a street, like modifying the way a street works, or does it have to be at a higher level than that? I'm thinking about Cornell right now.
Yeah, we typically, I mean, it can be as localized as that, but we often, when we have programs, they're kind of categories, so that might fall into a category such as, general transportation plan category. So, but we take those ideas and roll them up and then fit them into that an appropriate category.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So digging in a little bit more into the climate friendly and equitable community work, which is fairly substantial. This is an outcome of Governor Brown's Executive Order 2004 back in March 2020, which the directed state agencies to make significant headways in addressing greenhouse gas emissions. And so the State Land Conservation and Development Commission went through a rulemaking process and adopted land use, building, and transportation planning rules that impact the majority of jurisdictions in Oregon, the metropolitan planning areas, as well as areas with populations over 10,000, I believe is the threshold. So specifically as it relates to the transportation planning rule changes, so they have kind of rolled out the changes with incremental rules taking effect incrementally. We had parking reform that was kind of two phases, and I'll walk through that a little bit, but we have the next phase of fully implementing the parking reform is required by the end of this year. We have future implementation requirements for designating what's called climate friendly areas, which is really reflective. It's the 2040 regional centers qualify as climate friendly areas. We also have to update transportation performance standards, really accounting for more standards, thinking about how we are more substantially reducing our vehicle miles traveled per capita. And all of this will have to be incorporated into TSP updates. I believe they have a specific schedule, and I think Washington County is 2029 or 2028, maybe the target deadline. I should have that committed to memory, but I don't. So on parking reform, as I mentioned, there's kind of two phases to this. I wanted to touch on this a little bit. Just we have the parking reform A took effect January 1st, and We've been applying this directly. We don't have code changes or plan element changes, but we've been applying the state requirement, which states that anywhere within a proximity to frequent service transit, frequent being every 15 minutes within the corridor. So we have a map, and our current planning team refers to this map and says we can't apply minimum parking requirements within that proximity, that buffer to those frequent service routes. So that will be codified in the development code amendments that are required by the end of this year, which I touch on a little bit more here, so our we are in the process of drafting the ordinance. So we're in that development phase, but it will, the preview will entail some community development code amendments to parking lot design requirements. This is primarily focused on reducing urban heat island effect, and the recommendation right now is more of this factoring in if you are to provide off-street parking, you have to provide canopy over 40% of the parking area. There's also we have to revise. So currently we have parking maximums in place that are related to that kind of proximity to transit element, but the parking maximum reduces those a little bit beyond what we currently have. Current recommendation is just to apply this broadly throughout unincorporated Washington County. What the map here shows where these rules will apply in unincorporated Washington County, with a handful of these areas being within urban planning area agreement with cities, so they'll be incorporated into the cities in the future. And then the big one is repealing the parking minimum. So this would apply to all unincorporated. So right now it's just within proximity to transit. So the CDC changes, which are required by the state rules, will repeal all those minimums. So there will not be any off-street parking requirements. And so we anticipate filing an ordinance in terms of what the schedule. We anticipate filing it in July with first planning commission hearings in August, and then the first board hearing in October. And again, we have to have this wrapped up by the end of the year.
Got two questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Virginia, you were first.
Thank you. Just to clarify with the parking lot and transit, for example, Cornell has buses, but the majority of the customers for businesses on Cornell have no transit. We have nothing up in Cedar Mill and Bonnie Slope, and even Bethany has basically nothing. Mm-hmm. Just because Cornell has buses, does this apply to Cornell?
It does currently, yep.
Paul?
I'm wondering how this limiting the parking minimum impacts the ability of people to access transit if they are not in the area already, because that seemed to be an obvious thing that would be a result. And from a standpoint of due process, seems to be lacking.
Yep, these are comments that we shared frequently through the rulemaking process, actually. So we are, unfortunately, we're in the position where we just have to implement these based on state requirements. So it's going to be more an issue of how do we respond and address and mitigate the impacts of this moving forward. We do anticipate that, I mean, what this does is it removes the regulation from the process. It's going to be more of a market oriented, market-based response to providing parking. So our understanding, you know, from what we've heard from developers is they're still going to provide parking. That's still what the market is demanding, and you know, even the lending agencies are still requiring it. So there's still we anticipate that off-street parking will still be an element. Granted that there is the flexibility now of you know, somebody to not provide that, but point taken, certainly. Okay, I guess that wraps it up for I thought I had another soft landing here, but I am happy to touch on any more of this if you so desire.
Well, we have some questions lined up. Fran, what do you got?
Unmute first and then lower my hand. Okay, I had a bunch, but I was waiting like a good child. Number one is, thank you very much, Diami, for this overview, which is very helpful. And I'm sorry that I haven't been paying closer attention all the way through. So one of my first questions was about you in May you produced this LUT, the Washington County Transportation System Plan. Is that, I got the feeling that that's kind of the soft part of it, that there's still going to be community engagement and finalization, or is what was published in May going to be it and become the piece for the rest of the stuff?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is the vision for transit that we recently.
On slide 6, you put up the Washington County Transportation System Plan effective May 2nd, 2024.
Oh, my apologies. Is that?
And so I'm just trying to figure out, is that cast in stone now, and then all these other things play off of that, or is that still open for community input?
You said slide 6?
Correct.
Oh, I see what you're referring to. Yes. Yeah, that image, right? Thank you. Yes, yeah, that is, I believe we are publishing that shortly. But it incorporates the ordinance 900 and 882, which made some changes to our adopted transportation system plan.
Okay, so maybe one of the, I don't know if you have it in here, I didn't see it, but a timeline, you know, whether it just be the bullet points of the sequence of events, and what's been adopted and versus what's still open, you know, to be done ahead, because I kind of got a little confused there. So that was one comment. On slide 7, you have wonderful graphs. Do you have that data by census tract or by sections of the county? So for instance, if we have a concern, I'm thinking 882, about Southwest Washington County and all of the growth in there, is there any way of obtaining this growth data for that section of the county?
Yeah, we certainly can provide you with that at a sub-regional level. It's going to be, you know, dependent on kind of the geography of the various, like the census geography. So that might be one limiting factor in terms of defining those sub areas. But yeah, we can certainly work with you to provide some of that information.
Yeah, because it would be really great if, you know, there's this theory of, you know, here so many homes have been built or homes to be built in that sector. And 882 is very dependent, or people will be dependent upon that, but we don't know how many people. It would be great to have that data to corroborate that. I thought slide 16 was fabulous. That picture says it all. Our policies are overwhelmingly heavy in pages to read. And so I thought that was great. So, by the way, so then my other questions had to do with, I know that on these parking lot, reduced parking mandates, of course, we're going to see major opposition from existing neighborhoods, in particular, where when something new comes in, then people start parking on the street. I am thrilled. I got to tell you, thrilled that the rulemaking committee decided to add the tree canopy to the parking requirements, because they didn't have anything in there until I raised the red flag there. So I'm thrilled that we now are going to have tree canopy for the off-street parking areas. And you can blame me for that.
Well done.
Well, with no parking.
We've heard positive response from that.
Oh, okay. Well, super. They had a trade-off between a solar lamp and a tree, and that was all they had in parking structures for the 1,100 pages. Anyway, so with no parking minimums, I have a fear that we're going to see more driveway impervious surfaces put into developments. And I would like to see LUT provide resources or suggestions, recommendations for impervious surface for driveways or new areas that are, off the street, so that our developers and homeowners can at least reduce the heat impact. Because, like you said, some developers, the market will say, put the driveways in, maybe even more driveways, not just for you, but now for your visitors. And so we may see more impervious surface as a result. And I think it would behoove LUT to, we've talked about this, Steve and I, about there are resources you are well aware that would help us and help our communities in doing a better job there. And there are some more cost effective than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my feedback for now. And I will rejoin this effort as soon as I can. I really want to see 882 come to fruition in whatever serves the county best. So look to me in any way you can to help.
Well said. Thank you. I see that we have
Thanks,
a question from our Vietnamese interpreter in the attendees, and I would like to let them have a chance to get their question in.
Hi there. I don't know why it's showing Vietnamese interpreter, but my name is Hao Nguyen.
Oh,
I work as the TriMet Community Engagement Coordinator. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to take a lot of time. I just want to put my name out there. And I have my colleague here, Karina Archibald. She and I will be here to take questions. And if we can access the chat somehow to put our information down as well, so then whoever can, need or have any questions, comments, concern, feel free to reach out to us.
thank you. Melissa, you're in the attendees.
Sorry, I actually did lower my hand.
Oh.
I just wanted to jump in and say you were questioning the TSP. The TSP is going live later this week. We are waiting on a link for a map. And once that link is updated in the TSP, it will go live. So we're hoping by the end of the week.
Thank you. I want to make a mention about the chat. Because of public meeting laws, we are prohibited from running a chat. So that's visible to the attendees. So the anything that's put into the chat that the panelists can see will be put both on the CCI Facebook page and on the CCI YouTube channel, where our recordings are posted. So you can get the information there. And we'll also include it in the minutes of the meeting, which are posted on the county CCI website. So thank you. So Richard, what do you got?
Well, Diami, just wondering about Cornelius Pass Road, the south end of it. How far is the county planning to go?
It is Well, I'd have to review. I know it's 88 ordinance 881 had considered extending it, and that was not adopted. And so the current terminus, I believe, is Rosa Road, and that's
Or
what the current
Rosedale
Rosedale. Yeah,
with a
thank you.
roundabout, I believe. Okay,
Yeah, we don't specify that level of intersection improvement, but in terms of the terminus of the facility, yeah.
okay. So what was the terminus going to be under 881?
It had, well, now you're having to, I'm having to recall. I believe it went all the way down to Farmington, but let me
Okay,
pull it up here.
all right.
Mary or Richard, do you have another question, or is that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I will follow up with you and get specifics.
That makes me think of the whole set of issues of transportation in South County, which is probably worthy of a meeting, one of our meetings, all on its own.
Mhm.
Let's gather those questions and not necessarily pin Diami down for the answers right now. But there's a lot of questions. So, Mary, you were next.
So Bruce, I just wanted to put in some clarifying information about the chat. Chat is totally disabled for our meetings.
Oh,
So there is
Oh.
not an opportunity for anybody to submit that information.
well, at least we're meeting public meeting law requirements.
May I say something really
Yes.
quickly? So, may I give my information, like just my email or something, so folks, whoever is listening here can contact either myself or Karina?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so anybody has any questions regarding TriMet, you can contact Nguyen, so NGUYEN HA@trimet.org, or Archibald K, so RACHBAK@trimet.org. And we're here to answer any questions, and we'll take comments and concerns. And Daimi, I'm so sorry for taking up your time, but thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Virginia, what do you got?
Regarding my question about the parking situation at Cornell, for example, what could be done to modify that? Because the merchants along Cornell probably would be fairly dismayed to find out that their parking was limited because of a bus that runs along Cornell, but that doesn't serve their customers. So, I mean, 90% of the people who might want to shop at places on Cornell have no access to transit. And if they don't have adequate parking, I mean, we've already got a huge problem in a new shopping center at Cornell and Southman. People don't attend the businesses there because they can't find a place to park already. What would be the process to temper that edict?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be part of the conversation that we're having. Unfortunately, it's a little bit out of our hands in terms of the regulation changes, but in terms of how we mitigate for those circumstances, as I mentioned, we're not anticipating, we're not, the edict doesn't impact existing parking by any means. It's only
No, but
future development.
It prevents businesses from wanting to locate in an area where we have a really great customer base. But who's going to want to put up a new business in an area where there won't be adequate parking? I mean, I'm all for the idea of getting people out of their cars, but you also have to be realistic. The county has chosen to put a lot of residential in areas that are almost impossible to serve with transit because of steep hills and winding roads and total lack of a grid. Anybody that isn't young and fit can't realistically use bicycles. I know Fran agrees with me. And so it really, in some ways, it adds to the county's image of being anti-business. And that's not a good look. I mean, it's like, how do we leapfrog from a perfect future where everybody walks to commerce from where we are now? I mean, it's a big question, and maybe that deserves another conversation as well. But it's the reality that we deal with in CPO1.
Well, I'm not sure that meeting the requirements of the social matrix is really the objective of the parking minimum laws. From my conversations, it creates a substandard environment to go visit somebody that lives in an apartment complex, which is immensely frustrating. So I think we'll check in with you, Diami, to see if there's any way of providing a statement from CCI addressing sort of the balance between providing parking, which takes up space, and the social engineering of forcing people out of their cars or allowing them to choose to be out of their cars. So, okay, Melissa, do you still have your hand up?
Maybe inadvertently.
I don't think so. Fran, part
If
two.
I could just rephrase, I think what I heard Virginia's talking about is we need for transportation to consider topography when identifying parking restrictions, because it may not be one size fits all topography. And it's the topography that often limits, like Cooper Mountain has a 12 to 14 degree grade, pretty tough for the general public to ride their bicycle up and down that, but as much as we'd like them to do. So that has nothing to do with the elder population. So I just consider.
Excellent.
Yep. Yeah, these are all, I think, as I mentioned, these are all points that we shared during the rulemaking process. These level of concerns, unfortunately, our hands are a little bit tied, but I think how we respond and or how the market responds, that's really what's going to be worth monitoring and tracking over time, is how the market responds. But I will say, and for some of the folks in CPO1 and, well, more CPO7, we are in the process of scoping, and I think Mary has our team coming out and talking to you a little bit more about a shuttle service that we will be funding and supporting with Ride Connection that will hopefully address some of those the gaps in transit service up in the Bethany area.
And so Ride Connection is a county funded service that is not directly connected to TriMet. That's correct, right?
That is correct. Yeah, they are a nonprofit. They've been around for 30 plus years. We contract with them. They have typically been a provider for older adults and people with disabilities, and working in that realm, and have been tasked and partnered with some cities, Hillsborough, Forest Grove, Tualatin, to provide some shuttle services. And so the county, we're a direct recipient now of statewide transportation improvement funds that supports transit. And so we have partnered with Ride Connection to supplement their programs with additional funding to support these services.
So to recap, I caught that the regional transportation plan will be updated in 2025 with,
Yep,
to respond to the state rule changes. And then the Washington County Transportation Service Plan, System Plan, will have an update to respond to that. And that would be 20, did you say 28? Was that the?
2028 is kind of our target timeline. I think the state actually has a deadline that they anticipate it to be adopted, and I don't have that committed to memory, but
Okay.
we are aiming for 2028.
So we need, I was going to make a joke about we need to be very quick on this, but we need,
It
we
is
need,
a quick timeline.
yeah. For your perspective, especially.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Fran, what do you got?
And
Since I can't use the chat, yeah, by the by, the next meeting of the, I guess I had the wrong date, never mind. The climate friendly and affordable housing rulemaking team was having another meeting, but I was gonna put that in there, but forget it. Forget it.
But Bruce, I did want to just clarify one point. So you noted the regional transportation plan. It's actually the regional transportation functional plan that's going to be updated.
Functional plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be updated in 2025.
Okay.
And that's what guides our planning work or helps inform
the functional regional transportation functional plan.
Right. It's responsive to the regional transportation plan, which was updated just the end of 2023.
Okay, got a couple of questions in the attendees. Roger, you're first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ken.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mr. Valentine. That was a nice presentation. I'm interested in your slide about the population going up. And my experience lately has been is that the enforcement of my particular interest is traffic speed, noise, particulate pollution that's associated with traffic and increases in traffic. So if the population is going up and the enforcement of the laws are going down, that seems to would indicate decreased livability, less safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, people, trying to get out of their cars or use the bus. My experience is walking along any arterial is very, very unfriendly. So that would be one point I'd like to bring up. And then it would seem like in the regional metro planning that these problems are all over the metro area. And I don't know of any coordination between the individual jurisdictions about enforcement of existing laws. So like interjurisdictional coordination between the police departments and what is a noisy vehicle, what coordinating speed limit enforcement, maybe sharing speed cameras, that type of thing. The third thing would be is the plans seem to be building for speed, more lanes, more speed, getting people quicker. But in reality, when you drive around, does it make it, this also touches on the climate friendly. So if people are doing jackrabbit starts from street light to street light, racing to get around the next guy in front of them, I mean, that's obviously must be using more fuel, more emissions, more noise, more particulates, more braking, the whole works. So it would seem like it would make sense to bring into these transportation planning rules some coordination between some balance between just enhancing the traffic speeds and trying to reduce commute times, which is you know, it's questionable whether going 40 and then stopping, going 50 and stopping versus going 30 and whatever. So, okay, that's my points. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Roger.
Much.
We have
Roger.
one more in the attendees, Aaron.
Hello, my name's
Hello.
Free. I'm in CPO 1. I have 2 preteens. Murray was just upgraded south of Highway 26 with crosswalk or breakdowns so you can cross the street. But there's long distances between lights, and crossing Murray is kind of dangerous. And it sounds like we're pushing additional pedestrians to try and cross as pedestrians or bicycles. How the cars don't stop for me or my children when we're standing there at the crosswalk. How do you address those in manageable ways going forward?
Yeah, great question. And I think I want to touch on both that and Roger's point. Hopefully it came through, but can recognize how in such a high level overview, it may have been the focus of it could have been more roadway and auto oriented, but our transportation system plan really is intended to be multimodal. But I think in terms of how the implementation of it, and to your point, thinking about improving the quality of our transportation system plan to better support livability, all of the desired outcomes, supporting our natural environment, economic, in addition to just safety and livability goals. So that is certainly the intent of the transportation system plan. I want to put a plug in, and for Roger and or Aaron or others, we are going to be doing a transportation safety action plan. And this is an update to an existing plan that we have. And it's specifically around kind of the operations of the system and thinking about safe systems approach and ensuring that everybody feels safe on our roadways, all users feel safe on our roadways. So we're going to be undergoing an update over the next year. So encourage folks to reach out to me who may be particularly interested in that discussion. Some of those aspects about enforcement and better coordination, and thinking about traffic speed. Those are all on the table in terms of thinking through that in a more robust way through that effort. So appreciate those
And
comments.
so you would invite comments to you directly on that?
Yes, of course. Yep.
Very good. Okay, Ken, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, no worries. Diami, I thought I saw on one of your slides that the board was going to be reviewing the updates of the TSP sometime in October. Was that something that I really saw?
That's in relation to the parking reform amendments. Yep, they will be taking that, holding a hearing in October for that parking reform.
The reason I was asking was leading up to, is there like a drop dead date where you want comments about updates to the TSP? Or is it pretty much ongoing for the next year?
Yeah, we're only getting underway in terms of scoping the next major update. So that effort, I think I see this conversation that we're going to be having really helping to potentially articulate some of the key priorities that we want to focus on as part of that major update. So yeah, we're just starting that process. So any and all comments are welcome.
All right, just didn't want to make sure there wasn't a drop dead date. So
no.
All right, thanks.
Very good. Mary, what you
Bruce,
have?
I'm just trying to keep you on schedule. I was holding up my phone. It's 8 o'clock. It's time to move on.
Bless your heart. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have had our first presentation from Department of Land Use and Transportation on various and sundry aspects of interacting with the county. And Diami, I sincerely want to thank you for a very good presentation. And we'll look forward to potentially seeing you again, or at least flooding your email inbox with ideas and suggestions.
Of
I
course.
see Melissa just raised her hand. Melissa is the public outreach coordinator for land use and transportation.
Actually, no.
No, you are. What is your?
I'm the communications person. Big
Okay,
difference. Sorry.
that's good. So whoever you are, whatever function, what do you have?
Just wanted to put in a plug. With Bruce's blessing, next month I would like to sort of use CCI as a focus group to hear what changes you would like to see in the neighborhood meeting packet. We are looking to update that RNO, and can't guarantee that everything you suggest will be included, but we are definitely looking for feedback, and everything that you suggest will indefinitely be passed on to someone higher up the food chain than myself. So there you go.
Well, very good. We've already put it into our June meeting agenda that there will be some neighborhood meeting discussion. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I think we have done it, unless Mary has some other reminder that I'm missing. Virginia, what do you have?
Oh, I was just going to mention that it looks like we'll have a Washington County Sheriff joining us in July at CPO1 to talk about traffic issues in response to a CPO1 member who talked about that. And I also posted something on the CPO1 Facebook page about a particular crosswalk at 87th and Cornell, but we're looking into those two.
So this makes me want to remind viewers that that we try to write comprehensive minutes of our meetings, and they are posted on the county website. So in the absence of a chat function, you can often go to the minutes of the meeting and get the information that has been that we're unable to provide live. All right. Well, with that, we go on to our regularly scheduled meeting. And lo and behold, the next thing on the agenda is discussing the transportation subcommittee formation. This was entirely serendipity, but Ken and I have written a proposal to form a transportation subcommittee that is included with the agenda, with the full agenda. And one of the hallmarks of this subcommittee is that the chair is not expected to do all the work of the individuals having issues, because the transportation issues are huge and they tend to have a rather personal component to them, that nobody really does anything in land use except for maybe Fran and Mary and Virginia, that they don't have a personal interest, a personal concern for. And so when somebody suggests we should do something about some road somewhere, they become, according to the transportation subcommittee form, the advocate for that issue. And then the transportation subcommittee chair, Ken Seymour, and me, the chair of the CCI, Bruce Bartlett, will work with that individual to help guide them and support them in their work. But we aren't going to be doing the information gathering and contacting people by default. By default, whoever advocates for the issue owns it and will work with you, but we aren't going to do the work for you. And specifically, the CCI Transportation Subcommittee will deal with primarily arterial road system issues and not neighborhood street issues. CPOs are the correct venue to deal with your neighborhood streets, the local streets in front of your house. And the CCI, taking a more regional view, will be concerned with arterial primarily and some collector issues. And we have no shortage of arterial issues in Washington County, as Fran can give eloquent testimony to. So I would be interested if anybody has any comments on the Transportation Subcommittee form. Yes, Mary.
So a couple of edits. Under subcommittee leadership,
Yes,
first
ma'am.
line, it says CWC.CCI. I think that C is a typo, that first C.
Well, that's the first typo I've ever had.
Yeah. And then under purpose of subcommittee, the second paragraph, you say local issues with neighborhood streets. I believe that should say neighborhood and local streets.
Yes.
If we're going to use functional classifications.
And so, trusting your thoroughness, I assume you can send me those comments.
I can.
Okay. Thank you. So what do you think of the overall design of the Transportation Subcommittee, Mary?
I think it's got some real well thought out plans.
Okay. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody else have something to weigh in on the Transportation Subcommittee? Ken has agreed to be the chair, and we've both designated Fran to be the inaugural member of the Transportation Subcommittee. I don't think she would object, but you have the next 5 seconds to object to being the inaugural member of the Transportation Subcommittee. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you are the first member.
Gretchen is also involved too. So
Gretchen is definitely in. Oh yeah, oh yeah, but she's not here.
Right.
And well, maybe that's why. Maybe we should make her since she's not here. Anyway, so that was easy. The next item on the agenda is the Fran.
I just want to make sure, do we need to put this to a vote by the CCI to adopt such a thing, or are we just going to do it?
Well, no, I just was going power mad and assuming if I said it was done, but we should vote on it for heaven's sakes. Yes. So would somebody make a motion and second approving the Transportation Subcommittee form with Mary's edits?
I move we approve it.
I second.
Virginia moved, Fran seconded. All in favor, all members of the CCI in favor, raise your hand in the chat thing here. Okay. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Anybody opposed to having a transportation subcommittee?
Meet me out and back.
Oh, and Jill, yeah, 9. So 9-zip, we approved it. And we, our bylaws state that we will send the county commissioners notification that we have formed a new subcommittee.
Can I just add that the subcommittees are open to membership, to people attending, whether they're a CCI member or not, and they're always open to the public. So if anyone would like to join, Bruce, could you somehow put in the minutes who they contact? so they can get the information?
Yes, it would be contacting the our group email address, which is WACO, Washington County, WACO CCI leaders at gmail.com. WACO CCI leaders at gmail.com. So if you got ideas and you got a little time, throw your hat in. Okay. Anything else in that realm? And the attendees are capable of raising your hand if you want to ask a question or make a comment. So now, moving along. Oh, did I hear a bit of somebody having a question? Roger.
It's a great idea. Can I join? I'll
Sure.
send you an email. I like the format and how you laid it out, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Look forward to your adept participation. Okay, now we bring one subcommittee into existence and we take the other one out of existence. The re-envisioning, the CPO program re-envisioning subcommittee will dissolve, and any issues involving the evolving nature of the CPO program will be handled by the steering committee. Anybody have any discussion or comments on that? Mary?
Do you need a motion to dissolve it?
You know, I don't know.
Why don't I just move that we dissolve it?
And
Can't
somebody,
hurt. I
And C-
second.
And CCI steering will take the reins for any future adjustments to the CPO CCI program.
And as
Mary
long as that,
moved, Virginia seconded. All in favor, raise your little electronic hand.
and as long as we're talking about it, there's a meeting tomorrow at 11.
Oh,
All are welcome, but only some of us can vote.
okay. 9, anybody opposed to the demise of the re-envisioning subcommittee? As the chair of it, I am certainly not. Okay, 9-zip. We've decommissioned the re-envisioning subcommittee, and Virginia is talking about the steering committee meeting tomorrow at 11 to 1 it runs generally. And the link to that is in the CCI webpage of the county's website. Ben, you got your hand up still for a comment? Nope. Mary, you must have a comment.
The listing in both the CCI meeting notice and the listing on the website is incorrect for the steering committee. It talks about being the third Wednesday of the month, and it should read that it's the Wednesday following the CCI meeting, because of the month, sometimes it gets goofy. So how do we go about getting that corrected on the website as well as on the meeting notices that go out in the future?
Can we pitch a fit?
Well, that's too much fun. So I think that when
Well,
we
nothing
discuss,
else is working.
yes, the website gets updated regularly. So I don't think we've made a request to do that. So in the steering committee meeting tomorrow, let's update the notification, because that's throwing off my schedule. And I tried making it the third Wednesday and then showed up for the steering committee meeting a week early because that's no fun. Okay. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
Do we have an agenda for the steering committee?
The agenda generally comes out of this meeting. And so far we have discussed the CCI meeting date. and agree that LUT presenting on the neighborhood meeting update is what we want on our June agenda. So it may not be a big meeting unless we get into an argument.
So can I add
Sure.
something to the agenda as well?
Yeah.
As we're talking about the work plan,
Yeah.
it's coming up and we need to start thinking about whether we want to submit issues for the work plan.
Did I hear it said that the work plan is going to be released soon, or?
No, it's every other year, and this coming year is the year that it will be updated. So it'll be updated, I think, officially in the spring of 2024. But now is the time to be thinking about getting something on that. And I think what they try to do is get it the work plan finalized before the budget discussions start happening. Or maybe they decide after the budget because they know what the budget is. So I'm not sure exactly what the plan is there.
Are you talking about this year's budget?
No. Yeah.
It's next year.
Okay.
Yeah, the budget for 24-25.
Could we ask
right.
LUT for the timeline, and then we can just fit the slots? I believe Mary's right that it is for 2025 is the next update, and we need to have some dates from LUT as to when they are accepting information.
They accept information all the time between work plans, so it's not too early to submit now. It's just that later on it may be too late for this cycle.
Part of that.
So we'll brainstorm on some potential comments on or elements to be added to the work plan. Very good. Just ripping along here. Did I hear somebody groan? I'm the one who gets to groan. Significant natural resource subcommittee report. Anybody? Jill, you got something to share? Fran? Either one?
Fran, she would be the one to do that. I was not available for our meeting. So she can give a better overview of what's going on.
And she's waving her hand around in that way of, let me talk.
Wait a minute. I had it a minute ago. Okay, so there are two things. You can start with, first of all, I submitted the LUT Goal 5 inventory update project, community input on the draft policy ended today. And I had submitted from the Technical Advisory Committee a response to the draft policy in April 26th. And then today I added to that and included a few notes that the CCI SNR subcommittee had put into that document. Also, Jim asked me to report that there will be a webinar on tree codes in mid-July. And I believe he's speaking to Tree Keepers is going to be putting on a webinar about from a policy person, arborist who knows about tree code stuff. The other things is they talked about one of the things that I don't know if everybody understands, but the habitat assessment guidelines is going to be replaced by the new policy. So if anybody had any energy about the habitat assessment guidelines, which really never got integrated properly, they should be looking at the new draft policy for that and make sure that it's got covered. The other thing is that, let's see what else. Oh yeah. And then, so that's the gist of it. I've attached my letter to you, Bruce, as well as to the rest of the Technical Advisory Committee. And the SNR subcommittee is probably going to be meeting as much as weekly from now until October when draft policy is supposed to be adopted by the commissioners.
That's busy.
Yeah, it's a very technical document and it's very contrived and we're working on it. Can I give another aside, which
Yes.
is probably kind of a hushy, but I've been working with the Oregon Department of Forestry, the Urban Community Forester. We have an IRA ODF grant, and right now the state has $22 million to divvy up for community urban forestry. And of the 22 million, they first started out with the tribal communities and they're allocating that. But I have an agreement with ODF, and we've spoken to members of Washington County decision makers about the idea of a urban forester full-time for Washington County, and the ODF would ante up consulting fees for 3 years for an urban forester, which would really help us decipher this new SNR policy as it relates to trees. So they would be able to do the education and the explanation and assessments that are really critically missing right now. So keep your fingers crossed, everybody. We're telling the commissioners, don't leave any money on the table, and this is a great opportunity to get an urban forester with no matching funds required. So, and Pam Treese is grabbing this with like a bull, and we really appreciate that.
Does the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District factor into any of this, or the Natural Resource Conservation Service?
Let's see. We are working, Tree Keepers is working on a project called Cool Schools with Tualatin Soil Water Conservation District and Friends of Trees and a number of other partners, UGI, DPAVE, to green some of our schoolyards that are in the lower income areas, the lower tree score area. And that'll be the other grant that we're looking at. And we're also doing a summer watering program for schoolyards that don't have water access because of the reduced thing. So if anyone wants to contact Tree Keepers, and you can just type in Tree Keepers on the web and you'll get us, you'll find to identify a school that's in need for either tree cover or watering program. We're getting volunteers and equipment, everything to work on this project. And the monies from the grants will be available starting in November. And the grant window will start June 1 is when they have their requirements out for us.
Cool schools. I like that.
Thank you. Well, we need a lot of children don't want to go out and play because it's too hot out there.
Yeah.
And so we need some shelter. And that does a great deal for water, rainwater collection and filtration and all those other things.
Thank you for that. Any other significant natural resource issues, or how about any insignificant natural resource issues? Seeing none, let's go on to the communication subcommittees. Virginia, take it.
I have one that I have a question about. THPRD is going to realign their boardwalk over, I think it's in CPO 1. And they're going to take out 21 trees under the auspices of making it more ADA compliant. And so that's just one of the things that's, I don't think we can stand a chance of doing anything about it, but it just seems like, can't they put this boardwalk around the 21 trees? So anyway, that's the kind of stuff we're working on in CPO 1.
One of the comments I've turned in, or am about to turn in, is that sometimes, even though a tree is nice, that in the long run, it's simply in the wrong place, and taking it down and putting a tree in the right place 10, 20 years from now will be more appreciated than having a tree in the wrong place fall over. Mary, how's rebuilding your house going from all the trees that hit it?
Actually, make a correction on THPRD's project. It's actually in CPO 7 and inside City of Beaverton. So I think kind of the interesting thing there is it's in the City of Beaverton. It's in a significant natural resource. City of Beaverton has tree code. things are supposed to be better protected inside significant natural resources, but apparently it's not helping with this situation. So I think it's just an interesting one. It will be an interesting one to watch.
Lots of interesting things to watch. Anything else significant or otherwise in the natural resource arena? Okay, now Virginia, take away.
Well, yeah, we had a communications subcommittee meeting on May 8th, and Bruce attended briefly. Eric, who usually comes to our meetings, was in Europe at the time, so he wasn't with us. But Mary and I had a good discussion. We, a couple of months ago, combed through the OEICE portion of the county website that pertains to CPOs and CCI, and found a number of inaccuracies and old information and dead links and other anomalies that are barriers to people who are trying to get information about us by going to the county website. We hope that people hear about us and want to learn more, and that's one way they would do it. And so we've compiled that, and Mary wrote it up, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what we want to do with it, because OEICE is still short-staffed and has their focus on other things, but we're planning to write it up as a report, and Mary's welcome to jump in and correct me, as she usually does. But any issues that anybody finds with the county website, we would much appreciate hearing from you. I think I'm CPO1leaders@gmail.com, and I think Mary's CPO7leaders@gmail.com will both reach us. So if you are trying to find something on the county website and it's not working, or you find some missing information, please let us know, because we'll be submitting that one of these days. We are well on our way to finally having membership in the IAP2, which is International Association of Public Participation. The P2 means PP, public participation. It's their cute acronym for a group, which is mainly professionals. I expect that Amanda and probably Melissa are members of that public participation organization, but they have all kinds of interesting workshops that we should be attending. Amanda believes that we're now paying for our second year. I'm not so sure about that, but and Bruce can jump in and let me know if there's any updates on that. But the idea is that all CCI members who are interested in it will be able to take free classes, because we're getting a group membership.
I think that it has been resolved, but
well, I'm going to keep poking.
Oh, good. I mean, you do.
It's important, and I think a lot of us would benefit from it.
So the license that we have allows 50 people to be members of it. So I'm going to, once we get the renewal of the license settled, I'm going to offer OEICE I'm going to request OEICE offer memberships to other boards and commission members who might want to join in.
But us first, please.
Well, that's what I said.
After we get it on that. So. Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to keep it concise. We talked about training, which Commissioner Harrington mentioned during her recent visit to CCI, and what we really want, and Mary and I agreed that, and that's what's important, that we want specialized training.
No, we don't agree on that, Virginia.
Well, there are two kinds. There's broad introductory training for newer CCI members, And then we also want specialized training, which I believe you agree on, because
No,
those of us, well, okay, we
I
don't
think-
agree.
I think for new leaders, that is what the priority should be. I believe we have enough new leaders that
So
really need.
you don't
the
care about
basics.
getting trained on YouTube and that kind of
No,
stuff?
no,
Okay,
I have no interest in that.
I do.
I do.
Anyway, there is going to be in the continuing saga of LUT presentations to CCI, I believe in June, Melissa's going to come and talk to us about updated rules for neighborhood meetings. And I particularly enjoy what a neighborhood meeting officially is after a developer has their pre-app meeting with the county, they have to talk with the neighbors around that development and get feedback. And the meetings jumped onto Zoom during COVID, but it was all over the place and people were having trouble finding them and using the software. And so and in addition, there are other aspects of neighborhood meetings, and we believe that has to do with communications. So we're looking at that. And I know Mary hates neighborhood meetings, but I love them. So, and that's it. I say that sort of one of the slogans for our committee is that credibility is one of our goals. And if people come to for example, if they come to the OEICE website and get outdated information and dead links, that destroys our credibility. So, and I did write a follow-up message to Chair Harrington, which I thought if there's time that I could briefly share the issues that I wrote to her about. Bruce? Yes? Bruce is busy. Okay, I just said regarding moving urban areas into cities, would the county support the formation of new cities if the existing cities aren't ready to annex? And then I said, regarding the future of CPO-CCI, you mentioned that any changes would be shared with us. That dismays many of us because we don't feel that we're at the table. Yeah, they'll share what they're going to do, but don't we get some input? And then regarding training for CPO volunteer leaders, many of us would prefer shorter sessions and with a day-long session for new volunteers, but that's less efficient for those of us with longer experience. And Chair Harrington said that she would share my comments with the rest of the board. And I'm done.
Well, thank you. Mary, you got your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to add was, OEICE has been really short-staffed over the last year at least. And I'm looking at the budget for this coming year, and it doesn't look like things are going to be any better. Right now, there is 1.68 FTE full-time equivalents that is allocated to community engagement, which is not just the CPO CCI program. It also includes boards and commissions. It includes acres. It includes the civic leaders training. That amount is going to be reduced to, I believe, 1.48 FTE. So just, I think it's important to keep that in mind as we move forward, and as the program will be not re-envisioned, but may shift
as the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Fran.
Sorry, earlier you mentioned about if we have problems with the website, we should report them to you or Mary. I've been seeing month after month formatting problems when I try to read the CCI message. I've been sending them to Bruce, and it sounds like that's not the right place. So,
well, it could be. I mean, it's not the wrong place.
Yeah, but when I forward the problem, then it comes, the forwarding shows this thing. So for instance, when I get the CCI message, it's this long line of, on the left, and Virginia, you're a webmaster, you know what I'm talking about. Someone did not check that it should be formatted for a phone. And so that's why it's like that. So could you, I'll forward the screenshot. What I did was take a screenshot of it and then forward the problem. So I'm just
With a
informing.
link. Yeah.
I'm saying I got an email. No, I get an email and
Oh,
when I go to open the email, the whole thing is just one line from top to bottom. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying for others, if you're going to report a problem like that, don't forward the message because it may get reformatted. Take a screenshot and send it, and I will send that to you and to,
yeah,
that's what I
that's
want.
very, very, very helpful. Screenshots are great. Screenshots and links, or screenshots and citation of where you found it. Yep. Does Caleb have something to say? He popped up here. Hi, Caleb. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. I was just getting ready for the roundtable, but I thought I heard you talking about Commissioner Harrington's comments at the last meeting, and so I had something to ask about that as well. Is it all right if I go ahead?
I say go ahead.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think we could jump into the roundtable now. Let's do it.
Great. My comment was actually going to be around, they talked briefly about demographic tracking for participation within CPOs and in the CCI, and that was something that they didn't track, which surprised me actually, that was something that hadn't been tracked before. And I was just wondering if there was any effort among, the CCI to track that, or in any way, encourage participation from, diverse groups by, kind of checking in on that pulse of where we're at now, and how we encourage diverse membership. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't want to just jump in unless somebody has a keen insight. We did a little bit of computations, and we found that of the entire population of the county, 0.05% are involved in the program. So you could almost argue that we don't represent anybody in a statistically meaningful fashion. We are weirdos and misfits that like land use, and there's just not very many of us that are committed to doing this work. Getting diverse groups involved is tricky, in that getting anybody to come to us doesn't work. And we can't, you can't invite people to come and expect more than maybe one or two to show up. And so going to other groups is the way that it works best in my experience. And so far, OAICE has not been facilitating the CPO program reaching out to the community by us going out to them, to their meetings, to the places where they already get together. Because expecting anybody to come to our meeting, which is going to have only a little bit of information that is interesting to a newcomer, is expecting too much, I think. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work in the brief 25 years that I've been doing this. So that makes sense, Caleb? I mean, it's a real tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I mean, I work in communities from underrepresented, marginalized experience. And so I certainly understand what you're talking about in terms of community engagement. My question was so there's not going to be an effort to track that within our CPOs via the CCI. That's my question. No.
Yes, I think is the short answer, that
Okay.
tracking demographics in the absence of having anybody show up, um, it's
I mean, we had 30 participants at our last meeting. Who's not
cool.
showing up? I'm confused.
Okay, so so what do you think? I mean, having anybody show up is more important than tracking the demographics, in my opinion. And
I don't think it's either or, Bruce.
yeah,
I'm asking if we do track, like if that's an interest of ours. It sounds like it's not.
well,
So I
how do you
appreciate
track?
that. Thanks.
How do you track demographics in a meeting where people sign on virtually?
Well, we had our meeting in person, so we
Okay.
could distribute surveys. That's certainly something that we could do.
When you're talking about demographics,
survey.
are you talking about breaking people down in terms of their education and ethnic stuff, or are you just talking about what the county generally refers to as butts in seats?
I mean, both. I think that tracking participation is really important, and also, like, who is it that's coming to our meetings, and are we engaging an accurate representation of who we serve?
We also like to include our effectiveness, that even though we may not have a lot of butts in seats, what can we accomplish? So it's tricky, and I agree with Bruce. It's hard to get. I mean, there are times when the CPO one meetings have more presenters than community members.
So what was the subject of your meeting?
It isn't always that way. It depends on the topic.
Yeah, what was this topic that got 30 people to come out to CPO 6?
Our monthly meeting.
A what?
Our monthly meeting.
Oh,
where
monthly.
Was there
where we invited our
topic?
community, and no, they came to our meeting, and I'm just.
I think it was.
I thought that was normal. I'm sorry.
That's exceptional.
My bad. I'm new. So
No, that's wonderful. So I would be interested in seeing the survey that you passed out to sort of gauge the different aspects.
I didn't pass out a survey. I was saying that could be something that we could do. I would, if we so wanted to do that, since it wasn't something that the county was doing.
What kind of outreach did you do for that meeting?
I'd be interested in seeing your thoughts on what kind of questionnaire you think would be useful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'd be happy to provide some examples of things I've used in the past.
Yeah.
And if you were available to come to the steering committee meeting tomorrow, you're warmly welcome. I mean, if you got a lunch break at noon, we go from 11 to 1.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to come by.
Wonderful. Thanks. Paul, what do you got?
Just weighing in on what we're just talking about, was it Virginia mentioned counting butts in seats kind of thing. But I think about the successful CPO meetings in CPO 15. They were about some issue that resonated very well with a lot of people. So these are the things that attract people. So, and I think of one area that has been a recent thing, that is candidate forums, where people had a chance to hear about candidates for political office, because CPOs are the logical place to hold those kinds of gatherings where people can ask questions of the candidates. There's quite a bit of buzz about the candidates and what they stand for. You're going to have a substantial audience.
But we can't do that now.
Well,
did you know that, Paul?
The whole issue of candidate forums is yet to be fully resolved. We can't have an advocacy for one candidate or position, but county council will be giving us some direction. And Beaverton now does not allow their CCI to hold candidate forums. It's
really?
League of Women Voters and the Washington County Public Affairs Forum is supported by the Beaverton CCI, but Beaverton CCI no longer is allowed to run candidate forums.
You know why?
Public meeting law that
Well,
that because we're somehow sponsored by the county, we can't be partisan.
Well, if you're not, if you're.
Well, I know, but take it up with the council. Don't argue with me about it. Believe me,
Yeah, I'm
we
thinking of
almost had our meeting
CPOs.
shut down
CPOs
at the
operate a
last
little
minute.
differently than CCI does. So I can understand where CCIs are limited, but CPOs definitely are not limited on this.
yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah,
are.
we are.
Yeah, they are.
They are subject to public meetings law, but the public meetings law does not inhibit them from establishing a forum.
Well,
That
not
may
public.
be that in essence that may be true, but we will need to stay tuned because county council is now looking at CPO agendas and weighing.
Well, if they got in the way of establishing a forum, they're directly violating the Constitution.
Okay, Mary, what do you got?
I believe the commissioners made it quite clear that it was okay for CPOs to hold forums. But you know, again, just stay tuned and we'll learn more. But
Oh, flying around in the air right now.
Mary Lou, what do you got?
I was just wondering when you got word that you couldn't have a candidate forum.
About 3 days
It was a
before our
very
meeting.
loose, it was a very loose form of communication that was not specific over the
Well,
last.
no, it was, Bruce.
Yeah.
I got a note from Sam saying that we couldn't have our meeting.
Yeah, but the
And
direction, the justification was not provided. So
that county council said we couldn't have a forum. I mean, I can bring that email up, but it was pretty clear. And then it went back and forth, and it turned out that we could host spokespeople for the various measures. We didn't happen to have any candidates on our ballot in Cedar Mill, except partisan candidates, and we, you know, for primaries, and we weren't interested in working on that. But we had 3 levy measures, and it turned out that the presenters could present the levy measure, explain it, but not advocate for it. And so we ended up with a meeting, but it was a little bit watered down.
Well,
And as far as I know, things are still up in the air about going forward, whether we can, you know, because in November there will be some partisan.
Yes, there will. So I'd like to table this conversation because we got 6 minutes left, and
Sure.
if anybody has any CPO roundtable stuff.
And we're not going to shine any good light on it anyway.
Okay, Ken, what do you got? Oh, nothing.
I was just gonna comment on the previous topic, so I'll pass.
It's Mary.
CPO 7, our last meeting, we had a great presentation on traffic issues, neighborhood traffic issues. We had somebody from LUT from the Neighborhood Streets program. We had a sheriff's deputy come, and he did just a phenomenal job of explaining, you know, just the participation that the sheriff's office does in monitoring traffic. So I would highly recommend reaching out to the sheriff's department to have that. This coming meeting, we're going to have a representative from Washington County and a representative from Ride Connection to talk about the proposed shuttle between the Sunset Transit Station and PCC Rock Creek. And apparently we're going to have some ability to comment on proposed stops and proposed route. And they're hoping to have it up and running for fall term this year. So
Great. And CPO1 had a TriMet presentation in our May meeting as well.
And Ride Connection keeps popping up as a last mile, first mile kind of solution.
We also heard from the developers that are working on a enormous planned development next to the Sunset Transit Center. The land is owned by the Petercourt family, but it's like high-rise apartment buildings with retail and work spaces on the ground floor. I believe they are staying away from structured parking and trying to appeal to people who are going to be using transit. So it'll be limited parking and trying to provide them with the services they need. There will be a grocery going into the old Albertson Center at Saltzman, at Cedar Hills Boulevard and Barnes. And so that's quite close to that. And they're figuring that a lot of their new residents will walk or bike to shopping and not need to be in cars. And then we don't have a topic in June yet, but we will.
Because we always do.
Because we always do.
Any CPO3, anybody have anything to offer? CPO4, KBM? Oh, we were going to discuss folding CPO4B and CPO4M together. We missed that agenda item. I'll put it on the next month's agenda.
Okay.
CPO6.
Yeah, well, we had our first meeting, first face-to-face meeting last month. So that could be one of the reasons I think a lot of people were excited to come to that in person. So that could be an explanation for why we had some fairly good attendance in that presentation.
Where was it?
I'm sorry?
Where was it?
Oh, it was at the Aloha Library.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time we've been there since since Becky had a meeting there, I don't know, 9 months ago or so. This month, June, we're trying to get somebody to talk about high density housing. So we're still working with the county to try and get somebody to come on board from the county and talk about that, as that was actually one of the hot topics that came up last month with parking spaces, and the people's garages are too small on high density houses, and everybody's parking in the streets and cars in the streets, that kind of stuff. So we'll let you know who we get from the county for June.
Mary.
Are you talking high density housing, including middle housing?
Yes, yeah.
So is it middle housing specifically that you're talking about, or both?
Well, it was really high density, the density of housing in general, probably the small lot sizes, not necessarily high density, apartments, that kind of stuff.
Because middle housing comes without any required parking.
That was the main issue.
Yeah.
That came up around the middle housing. Yes.
And there was concern that there wasn't enough parking allowed.
Yeah.
You're right.
So CPO 7 had a presentation on middle housing a couple months ago. And if you go to our Facebook page, we have a recording of the meeting. I can send you the details if
do you recall who came from the county, or did you have someone?
I'm trying to remember who it was.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Ann Kelly. No, Ann Kelly. And she did a phenomenal job.
Okay. I kind of got the feeling from Melissa, she sent me a late email, that a lot of these folks want to do virtual, so we're still kind of wondering if we're going to be able to get somebody in person or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like staff is really liking the virtual component,
Yeah.
but having them in person is just, well, Virginia accuses me of wanting to have skin in the game, and it's like, yes, I like skin in the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It is much more of a community thing to be together in person.
Yeah.
And you're lucky to
That's
have,
because none of you have kids that need babysitters.
True.
or
Not that
Bluetooth
I do,
hearing,
but
Bluetooth hearing devices that work better in a set environment.
that too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's easier to do a presentation in a virtual environment.
It is. It is.
Well, hybrid,
Yes.
I think hybrid is really good.
Yeah, we're really liking hybrid. And by the way, I spoke to the people at the Opal, and they would welcome us in a few months.
Good. CPO 8 doesn't exist. 9, 10. Oh, CPO 8 does exist. Oh my God, what am I saying? I went to the
Yeah,
CPO
where
8
is
meeting
CPO 8?
last week, and they used the Hillsborough School District elementary school in North Plains as their meeting place. And so somehow Sam was available to arrange the Hillsborough School District to provide after-hours access for the CPO meeting to one of their meeting rooms. I'm going to pursue that a little bit more. Maybe we can embarrass Beaverton into doing it too.
Beaverton's usually willing to do it if you have a Beaverton School District agenda item.
Ah.
Well, we could make every meeting have BSD. 9, 10, 11, 12, CF 13, CPO 13 is going to be reactivating on Thursday. CPO 14 reactivated a couple weeks ago. Aka invited me to come along and sort of help with some of the logistics of that, and I appreciate the invitation. I don't think I'm going to wind up going to the CPO 13 reactivation because it doesn't sound like it's going to be very controversial. So
I'm hoping not.
We're all
but it's
hoping not, because I'm going
tomorrow.
to be there. So, okay, and CPO whatever else, nobody's here. So I would entertain.
I'm here.
Oh, CPO 15. Oh my God, what am I saying? Paul.
Well, CPO 15 had a meeting last week, but because I had 3 things scheduled simultaneously that evening, I was not able to attend.
Well, that's anticlimactic. What was the agenda
That's all I have
topic?
to say about it.
What was the agenda topic? Do you know?
I forget.
Okay.
Something about trails.
Oh, good. Trails are good.
All right. I would entertain a motion to end this.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Class dismissed. Oh,
Thanks,
Fran?
everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Bruce. Did Bruce leave already?